I am Nathan Johnson, and this is a network assessment for course NAM 495, Section AE at California Baptist University. Introduction. This project is in regard to Emmanuel Baptist Church's network currently and its development in the next 3 years. The purpose is to assess current network paradigms and to address needs inherent in that network while moving forward. The activities associated with the work breakdown schedule for a manual are as follows: create plan schedule, procure new equipment, backup data, set up and monitor the network. The cost associated with this project will be $12,895 for project deliverables. Personnel cost will be Teresa Barrett, $1,000 per month just for networking needs, Accent Computer Solutions, $5,000 per month, and the new network administrator, $4,500 per month. The organization that will be assessed is Emmanuel Baptist Church in Highland, California. This organization's purpose is to glorify God by helping disciples to follow and share Christ. The four core values of this organization are scripture-driven, worship-minded, family-focused, and service-oriented. This organization is currently headed up by Senior Pastor Dr. Ben Skog. It was founded in San Bernardino, California in 1953. By 1970, the sanctuary at Emmanuel Baptist was filled to capacity, running 3 services every Sunday. And in 1993, the organization moved sites over to Highland, California at its current location of 40 acres of land. On the current site, there are 5 buildings spaced across the 40 acres, all of which have network connectivity. The reason why a network assessment is needed is to create a report of the organization's current information technology infrastructure, management, security, and performance. The objective of this assessment will be to determine and identify opportunities for improvement to the existing information technology setup, so that Emmanuel Baptist can adjust better to fit their financial and practical needs. An assessment will usually happen when there is a realization about certain systems misbehaving for an organization. Some things that will be looked at are things like unsupported operating systems, anti-spyware being installed, password expiration, and operating systems in extended support. Other things that will be assessed are current workstations, handsets, servers, and wireless connectivity. After completing the assessment phase for this project, recommendations will be made on certain criteria. In a high-level plan, the network design process will follow continuous improvement. There will be 3 out of 5 steps utilized when considering a high-level plan, and these steps are: identify business requirements, compare current network to those requirements, design a network in detail to meet those requirements. The last 2 steps in the cycle would be to deploy the network and then constant monitoring of the network. Knowing where a business stands and the direction it is going is an important step in creating a network. This plan will use a high-level design to look forward into the future by 3 years as a base starting point for what will need to be accomplished. The organization can benefit from a 3-year network plan to help keep the church moving forward. Emmanuel will also benefit from having more consistent monitoring of their servers, workstations, and network connectivity. The needs found are that the organization will need redundancy to help swift recovery after disaster, a 3-year plan, and the need of on-site personnel to fulfill networking needs. The current information technology environment at Emmanuel is outsourced in a large part by a company named Accent Computer Solutions. The current server maintenance schedule is once a year to review server deployment and a once-a-month analysis of networking needs. There is a production server on site that has been partitioned into 3 servers. The servers are in a locked air-controlled room with only 3 staff members that have access to this room. Not all staff use workstations or are even on the network daily. Based on the amount of office workers versus non-office workers, the 11-to-1 ratio will be an accurate accounting of server usage at Emmanuel. The current network infrastructure at Emmanuel was recently overhauled in 2018. The church decided to replace twisted pair and coaxial cabling with optical fiber lines to connect each building. The current topology of Emmanuel's network is a star topology. Emmanuel uses local carrier Spectrum as their internet service provider and for voice over internet protocol for telecommunications. Emmanuel has a T1 line that costs $1,513 per month with bundled internet and VoIP services. Emmanuel uses a hybrid communication system with 9 VoIP handsets available across campus. Any other handset will use traditional PBX. Emmanuel Baptist Church helpful traits are Emmanuel has many members with a wide variety of backgrounds. The facility is in a fantastic neighborhood and the staff is very positive and motivated. The members at Emmanuel can be generous and have helped the church with an appropriately sized budget. Emmanuel is a Christian organization with a Christian purpose. The church is affecting a larger area than it has been before, and that is encouraging growth and the promotion of the church's mission. Emmanuel does have a large outreach capacity. Emmanuel's harmful organizational traits are losing out on having new members that don't consistently participate in church activities. The church sometimes has a problem with being able to bring in new people or reach outside the church to the people that need the gospel the most. Sometimes small groups within the church can seem to be cliques rather than wholly inclusive. The larger scale of the church can sometimes prohibit meeting guests at the church. All aspects that relate to the church growing spiritually and numerically also affect the church's ability to perform as an organizational standpoint. Emmanuel's IT helpful traits are they take physical security of the network very seriously and only allow a small number of employees access to server room. Last year, the infrastructure at the church was updated to include fiber lines to connect to the main hub on campus, which is the A building. Emmanuel management also really wants all employees to be able to use devices in their general area and will provide training for those items. Some opportunities that can be implemented for the church right away will be a 3-year plan in improving redundancy. Along with that, the organization should encourage further training on devices to gain maximum efficiency. Emmanuel's harmful traits are they outsource so much of the networking duties that the current staff on hand really don't know too much about the needs of the network. Emmanuel is at the mercy of the vendor providing the service. There is no redundancy to help in case of a total failure, and the organization would not be back up and running for several days. The network at Emmanuel is not always at the forefront of management's thought process when planning needs to happen. Current threats are physical damage destroying servers and no way to regain uptime in a swift manner. There is only a select few at the church with the networking knowledge, and they are not always available to help monitor or maintain the system. Over the next 3 years, Emmanuel can transition into an upgraded network as shown in Figure 2. The network diagram shows a fully managed fiber network switch for each building. That will help reduce network downtime. The way in which these switches will reduce the downtime is failover redundancy. They can allow for failover links within the network. They can also add features like link aggregation control protocol to enable the user to add more bandwidth for high flow rate applications without changing the cable type on the switch. These features of managed switches, operating alone or in combination, can create a low downtime, low latency network. It will also increase control over the switches to allow for maximum control over the entire network. Network segmentation would be utilized moving forward with this project. Network segmentation is when a network is divided into multiple smaller networks, each acting as its own small network called a subnet. We can control the flow of traffic between subnets, allowing or disallowing traffic based on a variety of factors, or even blocking the entire flow of traffic if necessary. Something else to consider while moving forward would be to utilize trust-aware access. It utilizes multi-factor authentication to make sure that users are whom they claim to be, and that they can have access to protected servers and applications. Over time, a manual will be transitioning to WPA3. WPA is a Wi-Fi protected access, and this is the third version of this protocol. Currently it has some flaws, but it is being patched and in time will fully replace WPA2. The recommendation while moving forward would be to adopt this newer protocol within the oncoming year. It will grant a better security measure instead of WPA2. As far as development and application considerations go, Emmanuel has a communications team that oversees web development and a media team that would oversee streaming services. The backup server is put in place with virtualization that will allow for extra storage in the communications department. The communication team utilizes high-quality photos for web pages and needs a high-volume storage for those files. The media team also needs a more archival system in place so older videos can be kept for future reference. The bandwidth will need to be more directed for the media team during Sunday mornings when streaming services would be made available. Upload bandwidth speeds for streaming video at 1080p would need to be close to 13 megabits per second. Utilizing the new network parameters, the fully managed switches will easily allow for such bandwidth speeds. The purpose of a firewall is to prevent unauthorized access to your network. The current firewall at Emmanuel is a WatchGuard Firebox M300 series firewall. The specs for the firewall are firewall throughput, 4 gigabits per second, VPN throughput, 2 megabits per second, and UTM throughput, 800 megabits per second. The recommended upgrade will be the next in line model of the Firebox series. It is the M370 and will be a nice upgrade for Emmanuel's system. The specifications on the new firewall are firewall throughput, 8 gigabits per second, VPN throughput, 4.6 gigabits per second, and UTM throughput, 2.6 gigabits per second. The Firebox M370 firewall is specifically engineered to defend all types of small businesses against attacks that are no less fierce than those targeting larger corporations. Emmanuel does have the capability, unfortunately, to get viruses on their workstations. That is why it will be a good practice moving forward to create a demilitarized zone. That way, if machines are compromised, an intruder will have little access to the rest of the overall network. It is possible to create a DMZ on a single firewall with at least 3 network interfaces. The external network is formed by connecting the public internet via Internet Service Provider connection to the firewall on the first network interface. The internal network is formed from the second network interface, and the DMZ network itself is connected to the third network interface. That overall would create a sort of buffer zone for the network. It would separate the public network from the private network at Emmanuel Baptist Church. Currently, Emmanuel does not have a demilitarized zone, and this is a recommendation to fix that within the oncoming year and with the new firewall. It is highly important that Emmanuel have a secure network to rely upon moving forward. Roles and responsibilities for the implementation and management of the new network will be critical to the success of the new network. The current plan is outsourcing all the needs at Emmanuel Baptist to Accent Solutions. The recommendation being that moving forward, Emmanuel will gain an in-house networking employee to help manage the new network. In the first half of the first year, roles will be limited. Teresa will be monitoring work done by Accent Solution employees. Accent employees will be installing new device hardware and software in the early stages of the 3-year plan. Eventually, the new network administrator will be both installing and maintaining network devices. The work breakdown structure for Emmanuel Baptist networking plan will be split into 5 categories. The first category being create plan schedule, which will encapsulate submit rollout schedule, revisions to schedule, and receive sign-off. Second category, procure new equipment. Purchase switches, purchase firewall, purchase wireless access points, purchase new backup server. Third category, backup current data. Backup local user drives and backup shared devices. The fourth category is installation and configuration. Set up the equipment, configure the switches, configure firewalls, configure wireless access points, setup, set up server, and then restore data backup. The fifth category being monitoring the network. Create user reference materials, troubleshooting, and then final analysis. The activities associated with the work breakdown schedule for a manual are as follows: create planned schedule, procure new equipment, backup data, set up and monitoring the network. These activities are designed to get a manual up to date with new hardware and to take the organization's scalability into consideration while growing as a church. The activities are designed to be implemented in the 3-year plan with specific phases shown. Teresa Barrett will be in charge of creating the plan schedule. Accent Solutions will procure new equipment. Accent will back up data. Accent and the new network administrator will set up the network. And then the network administrator will be in charge of monitoring the network. The initial resources will be budgeted from networking allotments for cost of hardware, any software needed for configuration, and time spent by Teresa, Accent, and the new addition of a networking administrator. The in-house networking administrator will tend to a manual's network and will provide a valuable skill set for the church moving forward. A Gantt chart is a project management tool assisting in the planning and scheduling of projects of all sizes, although they are particularly useful for simplifying complex projects. Project management timelines and tasks are converted into a horizontal bar chart, showing start and end dates. It also can show dependencies, scheduling, and deadlines, including how much of the task is completed per stage and who is the task owner. Figure 3 and Figure 4 of the Gantt chart shown below shows a visual representation of the project schedule for Emmanuel Baptist Church's networking plan. Current cost estimates for Emmanuel Baptist Church's network are: managed switches at $4,000, wireless access points at $1,200, a firewall $3,200, a backup server $1,500, SolarWinds network monitoring tool $2,995, the total deliverable expenditure being $12,895. For personnel, Teresa's estimated cost just for networking would be $1,000 per month. Accent's estimated cost for services, $5,000 per month, and then the new network administrator's estimated cost, $4,500 per month. Once the new network administrator comes on, we will see a cost reduction for networking needs. The resources needed for Emmanuel's new network are going to be hardware, which will be 5 managed switches, 5 wireless access points, a firewall, and backup server. The personnel associated with the resources are going to be Teresa Barrett, Accent Solutions employees, and then the new network administrator. Some tools that will be utilized are going to be SolarWinds Network Performance Monitoring and Wireshark. SolarWinds can scale based on needs, and some features are multi-vendor network monitoring, network insights for deeper visibility, and intelligent mapping. This will allow for more ease of access and monitoring capabilities for Emmanuel's network administrator. The next tool that will be used is going to be Wireshark. Wireshark is a very popular protocol analyzer, and some features are deep inspection of many protocols, live capture, network data can be viewed by GUI, and then VoIP analysis. Emmanuel will have a 5-point monitoring plan that will also lead into maintenance responsibility. The 5 points are discover, map, monitor, alert, and report. The new network administrator will begin with discovering what devices are on the network. Device roles will be assigned, and that will lead to proper identification of assets. The next point is mapping. The network administrator will need to have a proper network map for Emmanuel's communication and server rooms across campus. That will make finding devices later on a lot easier. The third point is to, of course, monitor. The network admin will want to monitor ping, latency, CPU, memory, and interface utilization. The network monitoring system may be put into place by the administrator to have alerts issued to them about problematic devices. The administrator needs to be thinking about continuous lifecycle design, and designing the network at a manual may fluctuate. Reporting information needed to appropriate executives will be important for the longevity of the network. A manual's maintenance plan will be as follows. Fault management. Configured network devices so that emails will be sent when a CPU reaches 80%. Devices will also capture logging messages and send them to server for documentation. Configuration management. When making changes to the network, they must all be logged appropriately. The most relevant personnel will be notified when plan changes will occur. Changes to devices must be reported and then acknowledged before putting into action. Account management. Information will be monitored by users and their network resource consumption. That will provide relevant data for further cost allocation. Performance management. Network performance will be implemented and monitored on all local area network links. Quality of service will also be implemented for VoIP services as well. Security management. A policy will be created and then implement firewalls, a demilitarized zone, and use of authorization, authentication, and accounting to validate credentials for users. Network breaches must be logged and then action must be taken to investigate. To conclude, upon completing the initial assessment of a manual's network, it was found that the organization will benefit from a 3-year network plan to help keep the church moving forward. Moving forward, they will change hardware. They will implement 5 new switches, 5 new wireless access points, a server, and a new firewall. Also moving forward, a manual will be changing from WPA2 to WPA3 wireless access points. A manual will be updating their firewall and adding a demilitarized zone for additional security. Their next change moving forward would be to hire an in-house network administrator that will help monitor and provide more robust skills for network activities. Finally, these activities will extend over a period of 3 years to help improve the network over time and not drastically pull on the church's budget. Thank you very much for your time and consideration for watching this presentation. I'm Nathan Johnson, and this has been my network.